Hey, I'm Bob at ILikeToMakeStuff. Today, we're gonna keep working on R2-D2. And we're back working on R2-D2. Last time we got a lot of stuff done on the skins. We got them all painted white. A lot of the other pieces are painted white, and most of the pieces were painted blue. After I finished that video, I actually had some trouble with the blue, and I wanted to talk about it. This is one of the pieces that I painted last time. This was the blue coat with a clear coat matte on top of it, and it looks great, but it actually didn't hold up very well. Once I started touching some of these edges to other pieces of metal just by accident and brushing them around, it started to chip a little bit. I did a little bit of research and found a better way to paint them, but it does change the color a little bit. On our podcast, I asked for some ideas about how we could get this paint to thicken up a little bit and not chip off, even with a clear coat, and somebody turned me on to this catalyzed spray. This is a two-part mixture in a single can. It works for about 48 hours before it hardens up, but when you spray it on top of paint, it adds a really hard clear coat, and based on this, you can see that it also changes the color just a little bit. But these pieces that I've already painted with the catalyzed stuff are holding up a lot better. The other day I started working on the legs a little bit more. I 3D printed this booster cover. This is in 3 sections. I glued it together and finished it just like I finished all the other pieces in the past videos. But I sprayed this one blue. It does not have the catalyzed clear coat on it yet. I'm gonna make sure that I get all the blue pieces painted and then use the catalyzed spray on them, because once you mix this up, you've got 48 hours before it goes bad. So now that I've got this piece done, I can start kind of laying out where all the pieces on the outside of the leg go. So I'm just kind of mocking up where all these pieces are supposed to go. Obviously, I'd have to drill and screw everything together. These white shoulders still have the masking tape in here. This will all be exposed aluminum, but I haven't put the clear coat on these pieces either, so I'm keeping those covered for now. I've got all these pieces kind of roughly in place where they're going to go, and it's starting to look really cool, but I can't attach anything until everything is fully painted. I can't paint everything until I finish the ankle. I'm not going to do that right now. In the meantime, I'm going to work on the dome. The dome is made out of 2 pieces, and I've shown you this before. These fit over each other, and then you just have to line up the pieces and they get glued together. But before they get glued together, I want to go back and polish all the surfaces, especially the inside surface, because it's going to be harder to get to, obviously, once the top is glued onto it. I've been working on the legs a little bit, and this one is just about ready to start putting on primer and paint. But before I did that, I wanted to point out something. One of the cool things about the R2-D2 build is that it can be a hybrid. So I've got some aluminum pieces that I've purchased from other people. I've got styrene parts for this build, and I ended up 3D printing this piece just because it was a lot easier to get that shape correct with a 3D print rather than building it out of styrene for me personally. But the cool thing is that it's all built off the same spec, so you can get this file from one person, this file from a different person, and they're still going to meet up and line up just fine. So I got this one on, got it glued in place, and then just had to fill the seam. But other than that, it's good for a little bit of sanding and then primer and paint. Last time I had most of the pieces painted blue, but after I started installing some of them and handling them, the blue started to flake off, and it's a very thin paint. Part of the reason I think was the primer that I used, so I actually stripped both of these down with a sandblasting cabinet. Then I used a self-etching primer on this. I still have to spray the bottom, but I want to try that as a base for the blue and see if that works better. On this one, I actually need to paint this one blue again, but last time I did it, I put in kind of a mask down in this channel because that channel does not need to be blue. It needs to be aluminum. That mask didn't really work super well, so this time I'm going to use Silly Putty. from the last batch of blue pieces that did get painted and are in good shape, a lot of them are ready to be put on the dome. The ones that are going to move, I'm not going to mess with yet, but there's a bunch of these that are just fixed. And so these are just going to get glued in place, and then I'll put some tape to hold them to make sure that the margin around it is the same while that glue sets up. This glue holds really well, but is also removable if you need it to be. So I'm not going to completely cover it. I'm just going to add a few dots so it'll stay in place. As I'm moving along on the dome, one of the next steps is to put in these beautiful hollow projector eyes. These were things that I bought from a guy that machines them, and they're really, really nice. They come with servo mounts on the back so that you can control them and turn them once they're in the head. But now I need to mount these inside the dome, and when I went to put them in place, I realized that actually some of the holes are too small for these lights, which is kind of a drag. The hole here is the right size, but the panel that goes on top of it is actually too small. It won't lay flat. So I've started filing that out to make it the right size, and of course that messed up the paint, so I'll have to repaint these. One of the bigger problems though is that I actually did this out of order. These pieces should be attached on the inside of the inner dome, and you're supposed to use this inner dome to be able to drive screws through, and then when you put the outer dome on it, you hide those screws. Well, unfortunately I already glued these together, and this is the only one of the three that I can still get to and put in those holes. So I'm gonna have to come up with another solution for mounting these things. I just got the first of the 3 hollow projectors installed, and this is the one that I actually put through the inner dome, so I just followed the instructions that came with it. This is the way most people put them in, drilled some holes and mounted them, and now this whole piece can move, which will eventually be controlled by some servos, but for the other 2, I can't screw them in like I did that one, so I'm gonna have to come up with a different way. I tested this one out and I think it's gonna work fine, so I'm gonna do the other one the same way, but basically I'm gluing it in place instead of bolting it through, and I'm using the E6000 glue, which I've used a bunch of different times, and it works great for aluminum to aluminum connections. I'm only really gluing in that retaining ring that's on the back side. In fact, this is the wrong cup that goes here. It's the same size, but it's not the right one. So I'm going to push this back so it's not going to get glued in place, and it's actually going to be stuck to the back side of that tape. So after this glue dries, I can take off the tape and this cup should come right out. Now that I've got all these hollow projectors in, I just need to hook up the servos so that they'll move. But in the meantime, I also have the lights to put in. Now this is a kit called the TC's kit that I ordered online. You can buy all these individual pieces, solder this up yourself. But getting a kit saved me a huge amount of time. And honestly, I just plugged in these wires, plugged in some batteries, and you turn it on and you're good to go. One of the things I didn't realize when I was ordering this is that on the back of these, there are terminals where you can plug in another single LED, and these are actually made to go inside the hollow projectors that I just installed. So I kind of got a 2-for-1. And to make these LEDs fit in there, I took one that was a little bit oversized and actually sanded it down on the belt sander to make a profile that will fit in the back of the hollow projector. We're finally at a place where we can start putting together one of the legs. Now what I'm talking about here is this section of the leg, not the ankle. I haven't made any of that stuff, but I've got pretty much everything from here up that I can assemble and attach to the body. Let's do it. Gonna have to cut down a few of these so that I have room to turn the nut once I get it on top of the bolt. I've got the legs almost finished and I'm really anxious to put them on the body, but before I do that, I have to run some wiring. This hub goes down inside here, but that actually covers up where the wire needs to go through. So before I put that in place or the leg in place, I'm gonna run some wire through there, down the channel, inside the leg, and have it come out the foot. That way when I get to building the feet and adding the motors, I'll have a wire down there ready. got the light pack ready to go in the dome, and it came with a few pieces that I've already installed, some diffuser plates, but it also comes with some pieces of PVC which act as little tunnels, and then the lights get mounted on the end of them. I'm going to glue these in place, but I also wanted to show you these different matrices that got glued in, and then the LEDs plug into the back of those little matrices. Now that I've got those glued in, I can put these into those holes and just use some hot glue to hold it together in case I ever need to take it out. He's got an eye, he's got some lights. This is a good place to stop this particular video, but there's gonna be a lot more to come. In the next video, I definitely wanna work on the feet, try to get him rolling around a little bit, and get a motor in the dome so his head can spin. Plus, we've got panels to put on hinges. We have a ton of work to do on R2-D2. If you haven't seen the previous R2-D2 videos, we're gonna have a playlist with all of those that you can go check out, but we've also got tons of other types of project videos that you may wanna see as well. If you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to do that so you can keep updated with this guy and with all the other stuff we've got coming. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. We've also got tons of other types of projects that you may want to check out and 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 check out. With all those listed, you can go watch them whenever you want to. You can go, yeah. Bleep bloop. Check all those out if you want to. But we